bids for resurfacing part of the road, which would probably be in front of my house. Is that bid, is that to grind off the top or just simply resurface what's there, what's existing?
They'll probably, it'll be wedged with a black asphalt wedging. They come out with a new product that they want, that supposedly they put on trial. I guess they told us at the board there in January, remember? And that's the quote they're going to give us. It won't have to be chipped and sealed for like 2 or 3 years. They mix it together. So that's what they'll do. Thank you.
Hi, Kevin Martis with the IICC. I brought you a couple documents I thought might be valuable. I know as you're looking at this wind turbine stuff, you want as much information as possible. The first is an overlay map that Exelon Great Lakes Wind offered Palmyra Township to voluntarily separate their turbine development from high-density residential areas. Something you might want to ask them if they'd be willing to do here. We also brought an appraisal report from McCann Appraisal, which is a rebuttal to the Hohen report that the developers have been circulating. Great Lakes Wind likes to criticize Mr. McCann's appraisals, but I'd like to point out that he's done appraisal work both for John Deere and Exelon.
A couple weeks ago, Norris Clump and I took a little trip down to Paulding just to see the project we're working on down there. I took some pictures, I stuck them on a board over there, nothing fancy, but if you want to look at them, fine. We noticed they were, you know, in the process of erecting the first turbine. And, I mean, I know there's pro and cons both sides of it. If anything else, it's pretty amazing just the engineering feat of this whole thing, the way they have everything planned out, where they're going to bring in the trucks and how they haul the turbine, the sections in and all that stuff. So, if for no other reason, just go down there, take a look. It only takes about an hour and a half to get down there. It's pretty interesting just to drive through there. And I've heard since then they have like a dozen of them already up. So.
Hi, I'm Eric Martis from the Citizens Committee. I recently went up to the wind farm up in up by Pigeon in Ogden, and I went there Saturday, and I was actually with you know, I am supposed to research this thing as a community, as a Citizens Committee, and when I went up there, I was expecting, like I've been to meetings and I've seen on the internet the noise and everything, and I was expecting shadow flicker and stuff like that, and when I showed up I could see them about 10 miles out. These are 390 footers, and then when we got 5 miles out, they were a little closer, you know, and it's like, okay, they're not too bad. Then I showed up and I got within 1,400 feet, and when I got out of my car, because I was driving in a vehicle and you average about between 60 and 70 decibels in your car, so I figured, according to what information I had read on the internet and other information, that you're supposed to tune your ears, you know, and try to go and hear that sound from the stuff I had heard on the internet. And when I got in there and I said, well, I'll get out and try tuning my ears, when I got out I heard immediately noise. Now, you know, maybe it's noise to me and that may be a subjective thing, but when I heard that noise compared to what they had at the IICC meeting, which was very minimal, and I thought that, but this went and basically was double the sound that they were saying was 45 decibels. I don't know what 45 decibels is, you know, to ear from a turbine like that, but they have a 50 decibel noise limit up there, and if that was 45 decibels at a max is what they're asking for here, there's going to be a lot of upset people if they heard that. It may have been an anomaly, it may have been just that one day, I don't know, because they were on, and then went inside, came back out, and some of them shut down. They were the 1,400 feet, but about a half mile away, you heard those making noise. And then those shut down because they were trying to find wind, you could tell, because there was a low relative wind on the ground, but it was high. The wind's up high, we're obviously catching, and the way the turbines work is that they go and have to go and find the best wind to operate. So as they did that, they'd shut down, and some had shut down, but you could hear then also the ones about 3/4 of a mile away, you could hear those. But maybe that was because, you know, I'd already tuned myself to the ones up front that were really close. But then, went in the house, came out, then there was nothing, but they were still spinning. I think they were trying to find wind, but there was no noise. But the way I felt about the whole situation is if that was 45 decibels, or 50, if that's what they expect up there, that I really think there's gonna be a lot of people disheartened by that noise that I heard up there. And there were other people on that tour with me, but it was not sponsored by the developers. So all I'm saying is that maybe you should check it out and go look for yourself and go on a time that's not sponsored by the developers to get your own opinions on that, is all I'm saying, all right? Thank you.
I'm David Newberry, and I'm not from this county or this township. For that matter, I'm not from Michigan. I'm from Ohio. But I have an airport that's about maybe less than a quarter of a mile west of Pt3 Road, which would be County Road 7 in Ohio. And the end of my runway is less than a mile, I believe, from the Michigan line. And I would hate to see one of these wind generators go up off the end of my runway, because it'd be dangerous. Because we have our airspace is at 500 feet, so, and I think they're above 500, I'm not sure. And it's just a safety matter. Now, if it was 3 miles away, it wouldn't be so bad. If it wasn't off the end of the runway, if it was displaced a half a mile either direction, 3 mile wouldn't be bad. But if it's right off the end of my runway, it needs to be a lot further than 3 miles. So. Thank you.
Josh Nolan, speaking on the topic of sound that Mr. Mars just addressed. Just wanted to remind everyone that there'll be a special meeting in Rigan next week on Tuesday the 19th, where we will be bringing in an acoustic engineer to discuss low-frequency sound. Everyone's invited. It's a free meeting. It starts at 7 p.m. at the Riga Township Hall.
Josh Van Camp, I was just going to ask that just a thing to consider down the road as we kind of move forward with this process. We've got the Citizens Committee, you know, investigating some of the issues, and at some point are going to have hopefully some sort of recommendations that the board can do with what they will. But what I would ask is, as we get closer to that point when the board decides to start making decisions about that information, that the board send out a notice to the residents of the township, and again ask for public comment. Again, I've made the comparison before that we had the road millage here a couple of years back, or a year back, and it was just a small road millage, and we sent postcards out to notify the township. This is going to be a huge issue that's going to impact the township for a long time to come. So as we get further down the process and we get to the point where we might be deciding on possibly doing some sort of regulation, since we don't have a zoning process per se, where that process, like they did in Riga, they had a period where the public was able to submit comments both for and against the various regulations. I just ask that the board provide Ogden citizens the same courtesy and send out a notice and just make sure everyone's aware and has a chance to speak their mind. Thank you.
Dave Porter.
We're just limiting everybody to one, the 3 minutes. You can use up 1 minute.
I didn't use up 3 minutes. One thing I've been curious about is the Citizens Committee. Has the board ever given them any guidelines or perimeters for what exactly they're operating under? Because the motion that I saw that was in the minutes, it basically just enacted the Citizens Committee to report back to the board. And I would hope that you guys have given them some sort of guidelines and something to work within, or I'm not sure how they know what exactly to do.
Go ahead and address it.
We addressed this, and it's been addressed, and I'm Eric Martis again from the Citizens Committee. I addressed this last night at our meeting, and if maybe Dave was there, he would have recognized that we addressed this last night, and it was an agreement that according to the last township meeting, we had a vote of confidence in what we were doing and coming up with an answer and to go, because the township doesn't have the money to pay for an attorney, or we don't have a zoning board, and we're all doing this on voluntarily coming up with, as a cross-section of the community, to come up with good, fair regulations that we can go and submit as what we go as a consensus of the 5-people board, to come together with the consensus to go and turn over to the board. They can throw it in the trash can if they want, but we're gonna go and come up with setbacks, all that stuff as a consensus of all the people with the cross-section. Everybody's welcome to call us, get a hold of us, show up at our meetings, and give us information that we can use to make it so everybody, it's fair and equitable to the entire community. Whether it be people with contracts, people without contracts, people outside the community, because it not only will affect our community, but also people outside our community. Because it's not only that, these don't only affect people 1,320 feet is what they're asking for, or 45 decibels, that doesn't mean 1,320 feet from Riga Township, or Fairfield, or down here at Amboy, or Blissfield, Palmyra Township. It may affect all of them. So we're asking for all the information, and anybody is more than welcome to come to our meeting, and we can go into this and come up with a consensus between the 5-member board, go and do it, vote on it, give them guidelines that we feel has been equitable amongst everyone, and go and hand that over to the board, and then it's up to the board to vote. They don't have to take what we do as a it's just merely a suggestion. And that's what we're gonna come up with, turn into suggestions, up to the board to vote on it. They can throw them out, they can talk to the attorney, do what they want with them. So all we're doing is we're gonna come up with that, because they don't have the time, it costs them money. If we start a zoning board or a planning commission, that costs money. We haven't charged them a dime, other than a few stamps, I believe. And we've also went, and with last night's meeting, we also agreed that we'd use our own paper, not to cost the township, or all our information we're bringing in, that we said we're gonna use our own paper to go and donate to the community, to go and turn our results in. So that's where we're at, and that's what we're trying to do, because we don't, as a community with this economy, we don't have that kind of money to go and afford board, more time, or attorney fees, everything else to go and cost everybody. So, and seeing how that we're trying to do everything for everyone and not just a certain few amount of people, that's where we're at. So, thank you. You're welcome.
My name's Randy Estes. I've lived here about 10 years. I live right down the road here. And according to the GPS locations on these, I would like to know how somebody's going to make it fair and equitable for me, because I'm going to have 4 windmills right behind my house and 4 windmills right across the street from my house. If we're so worried about the township's money, why don't we count on these future taxes that we're going to reap from these wind turbines? I don't think anybody's going to make it fair and relevant to me. I came here for the peace, quiet, and the quality of life.
Amen. Amen.
First we went off the cow people, and now all of a sudden we got the next industry comes in and sees us as prey. I think we need a zoning board. I think we need somebody to keep these people out of here so we can enjoy our life. I don't mess with anybody. I don't want anybody messing with me. But I don't feel I'm being protected down here. I would like somebody to look into that.
Any other comments?